Hello, everyone. Good evening to those joining us in Asia. Good afternoon and good morning to those joining us from other parts of the world. I welcome you all to the fifth webinar on data quality hosted by NDQF, the National Data Quality Forum. My name is Soumya Ramesh. I'm a Senior Program Officer at Population Council. I'll be moderating this webinar. As many of you may already know, the main purpose of these webinars are to create a dialogue on data quality among data producers and consumers and learn about data quality issues and solutions. The topic of today's webinar is a technological solution for health and malnutrition management. As you all know, malnutrition management is not just about giving food or healthcare. It's an issue that requires a multi-sectoral response. A wide range of departments and government bodies need to work together to address malnutrition. In this webinar, we'll hear about how technology, that is an app that was used to manage malnutrition through a multi-sectoral approach and through improvement in data quality. We have with us Mr. Ashish Srivastava from CSTEP, Center for Science, Study of Science, Technology and Policy, a technology and policy think tank headquartered in Bengaluru. Ashish heads the AI and Digital Lab for CSTEP. He has had an intense career in the IT industry, managing diverse leadership roles and leading many large technology initiatives. He is passionate about exploiting technology for society and likes to create solutions for last mile social impact. In partnership with government and non-government agencies, he is currently busy creating and deploying high-impact digital solutions in social areas like health, child welfare, urban governance, and defense. As a working committee member, he has also contributed to the data strategy of smart cities for the Government of India. Ashish has done his BTech from IIT BHU and Masters in Digital Society from IIIT Bengaluru. He holds a postgraduate certification in economics from the University of London. Welcome, Ashish. We also have with us Dr. Vishnu Vardhana Rao, Director, National Institute of Medical Statistics, ICMR, which is actually hosting the National Data Quality Forum. Dr. Rao is a trained mathematical statistician and data scientist. Dr. Rao has more than 3 decades of experience in planning, executing, and analyzing data for large-scale community and clinical-based research studies in the domain of nutrition and health. He led several interdisciplinary groups in designing data collection and interpretation of large data with the goal of addressing important nutrition and health related issues facing the country. Before joining NIML, Dr. Rao was with the National Institute of Nutrition, Hyderabad, where he has played a pivotal role in establishing the Bioinformatics Center. Welcome, Dr. Rao. Again, thank you all for joining us. Before we start, just a couple of rules to ensure a smooth session without any glitches. So for this session, all the participants will be on mute except the speakers. We'll be taking audio-based questions. We'll also be taking chat-based questions. Please use the question pane on your control panel for all your questions. The chat box will remain live throughout the session. You can feel free to type in your questions anytime during the session. And for those who are joining in via their mobile, please use the question mark on top right corner of your screen. And those who want to ask questions directly, please click the raise hand icon. With that, over to you, Ashish.
Thanks a lot, Soumya. Just let me switch over to the presentation screen and just confirm it once you can all see it.
We can see.
Just hold on. I think it's yeah. Can you see that, Soumya?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, fine. So I'll start right away then without wasting too much time. Good evening, everyone. So today's session, as Soumya has already introduced a little bit, is about a technology solution for the purpose of management of malnutrition. And I'll talk about it a little bit in a while. And the focus for today's is about how did we uh, embark on a journey of good data as part of this. It's a very complex and large solution. So everything is not only about data, but I think data is foundational and plays a very important role in making this solution successful. So how we will want to go about today's session is like this, okay? Uh, just right. So we will use the malnutrition management solution which CSTEP has uh, created collaboratively with the government of Karnataka. It's a very ambitious program, and the name of it is SNEHA, and it is for the management of malnutrition for both children and women. We will use that as an anchor point, and we will explore the data strategy, what we adopted and why we adopted. And maybe there's a learning in that. It was definitely for us, it was a humongous learning, but I think maybe there's a learning for every participant who is today participating in this webinar. So before we actually delve into the data or any kind of technology, let us first spend a little bit of time in terms of understanding malnutrition and why data is important for the purpose of it. So first and foremost, India is reeling under child malnutrition, and women too. But let me just nail down the child part of it. Okay, as you can see, there are three core measurements which are used for measuring malnutrition. One is a composite index, which is underweight, which is the child's weight for his age, and you can see that the underweight itself is close to 36% across India. Karnataka is not far behind. Stunting is the height part of it, height for the age. And you can see that more than 38% of the children are stunted. Now, stunted is very serious because once you have crossed 2 years after stunting, it becomes largely chronic and irreversible. And stunting also impacts not just the physical growth, but the mental growth. So if you have not treated and intervened in time, then these 39%, which is a huge number, 39 children out of every 100 people, 100 children, actually will grow not only to be stunted, but we will lose their productivity to the society. And the last, of course, is the wasting part of it, which is sometimes called as a true measure of malnutrition, uh, is about how much weight you have with respect to your height. And that's what is, usually when you see famine photographs, children very thin and skinny and bony, and that's when you say that they are wasted. So this can be definitely be treated with good nutrition and good strategy about it. So the picture is grim, as you can see that, as far as the child malnutrition is concerned. And I just showed Karnataka as well because that's where we are working. Malnutrition is also a wicked problem. Okay, a wicked problem. I mean, people who are familiar with it, it's a Rittel and Weber introduced this in 1970s for policymakers. It become one of the great tool to understand some of the challenges in policy making, because it defines wicked problem defines a problem which is very difficult to analyze because there's so many causes, they interact with each other, they're seemingly impossible to solve. You don't know what is the starting point, what is the end point. So malnutrition is like that. Okay, and from various sources, this is the picture I have been able to draw, that there are first and foremost the basic causes. The basic causes are fundamentally socioeconomic in nature. I will not go into each one of them. They're well known. It's about the resources, education, human capital, economic capital, all the stuff which is there in our country, especially in the poor areas. Immediate causes are about the awareness, the education, the health facility, security of good nutritious food in the families, all those stuff is what is immediate, which causes malnutrition. If you don't have a good knowledge of how to deal with a child malnutrition, you will not be able to take care of that. And then is this humongous chaotic cycle of malnutrition, multiple stakeholders, multiple departments with all good intentions and great effort. They are working towards providing services for child, women, and adolescent girls in particular, for making sure that the malnutrition comes under control. In spite of that, it continues to be a big challenge in terms of managing this. So this is how the picture emerges when it comes to the malnutrition as a wicked problem. And now let us look at the data, okay? And I just talked about the chaotic cycle of operations. So, and the government was very transparent, and they shared a lot of operational data, years data with us. And we looked at roughly the last good survey which happened comprehensive across the country was NFHS 4 around 2014-15. And I took a operation report roughly from the same time period, and you can see that at that time only underweight was taken. Height is being taken for only last 1 year or so, and that too not very consistently. So if you just take the weight part of it, moderate underweight, the NFHS 4 says 23 and this says 22, so they're roughly equal. But the severe, which requires the most attention, the NFHS 4 survey predicts 11.6 across Karnataka, and it is 0.6 in the as per the operation report. How do you even act on this kind of data when you as far as the operational reports are concerned, frankly speaking, there is no problem, but we all know that there is a big issue. So this is, I would just wanted to give you a glimpse of how the existing data can go completely wrong and there will not be any picture for anybody to act upon it. Okay, so this is the situation, but then the question is, why should data even matter? Okay, and I will just revisit Elephant Story. I was recently reading this book, Dark Data. It's a very interesting book. Okay, Why What You Don't Know Matters. Okay, it's by an author called David G. Hand, and he has narrated a joke at the beginning of the book, and he talks about an old man who he sees on the road who is putting some powder on the road in the middle every 50 feet apart, and he goes and asks that person, what are you doing? He said, you see, I'm putting this powder is elephant powder. He said, what does it do? He said, elephants can't stand this powder, so they stay away. They can't come here. But he said, but there are no elephants here. He said, see, the powder is already working. So if you don't have what this joke, the point it makes is that if you don't have the data, if you don't know about the elephants, whether they should be there in the first place, they shouldn't be there in the first place, then you will draw all wrong conclusions. And that is where we stand as far as malnutrition is concerned. So data is important, data matters because of policy decisions, and yes, we have to do something about it. With this context set in terms of having a little bit of information about where we stand in malnutrition, let's start exploration of data strategy that we followed. So how did we lay the foundation of quality data? The important point is, and before I even move to the next slide, is that data, we sometimes give too much emphasis to data. Okay, and I've been a technologist all my life, and I feel that that is not correct. Technologists are the biggest culprits, but everybody else know big data, this data, AI, ML, data. But data never ever exists outside a context. If somebody has not studied and understood the context and the processes in which the data resides, you will never end up taking the right decisions in terms of how to manage it, how and deciding what to do about it. Okay, so how did we go about exploration of this thing? The team that was involved in this whole solution creation, first of all, we visited scores of Anganwadis, okay, in villages, in remote, urban, every outskirts, everywhere, and we interacted with the field workers on the ground, seeing how the data is collected, how the issues are managed, how the processes are followed, etc. We also interacted with a lot of healthcare workers from ASHAs, ANMs, doctors, and doctors both at primary level, and we went up to the tertiary, very sophisticated hospitals to get their point of view in terms of what they think about malnutrition management. And of course, in government, we really engaged with the senior officials in depth in terms of what is their stake and how they perceive what should be done in terms of malnutrition management. So when we did all that, then the picture started emerging in terms of what is going right and what is going wrong. And this is what the three main things, and there are a host of things, but I'm encapsulating the most relevant three things. First of all, we felt that the mother's health is not getting as much importance as it should. It is most fundamental to child's health. And in its own right, it is important for the mother when she is especially pregnant and when she is new mother. But the access to the health facility is very difficult. In fact, when we were visiting many villages, one woman actually was on the uh, brink of crying, and she said, look, how do I even attend the antenatal checkups, because the primary health sub center is almost 4 kilometers away, and in this weather, that was peak of summer, and I don't have a support from the family. So instead of walking to that place, I would rather not go, which is very unfortunate. So those kind of situations were in abundance. Second point was, and this is very relevant for the data, that health data, and we saw that across departments and this thing, that not only of children, of mothers, of even families, they are completely inconsistent across departments. They are inconsistent in terms of the basic profile of when the child was born, age, mother's name, everything is wrong. Same thing is about family. They are inconsistent in terms of health record. If you look at one register in one department, you will get to know that the child has been immunized for XYZ. If you look at it another department, the same child shows some other record. It's all in a complete mess across departments. So health data was a big issue. And the third one, which we'll not emphasize too much today, because today we are focused on data, is, but I think it came out very clearly from the field workers that they're not just looking for a app, an automation solution, this, that. They said we have huge number of issues which we face operationally, and I please make sure that your solution addresses and highlights and gives us power to escalate and manage those issues. So these were the three things, and this is what sometimes people call a systems thinking. Sometimes it's a human engineering. A lot of things are, even in context of data, those things terms are things, and we really followed it to the core in terms of understanding the grassroots problems which are there in terms of managing malnutrition. Let's look at the process itself. And malnutrition management process is a combination of many processes, but I'll give you some example. One of the fundamental processes which every Anganwadi worker, where Anganwadis are the childcare centers where most of the services are provided, and they undertake a family survey every year. Similar surveys taken by ASHA and auxiliary nurse and midwife, ANMs, which is they are there from health department. These two data never match. First of all, it's a duplication of effort in any which way, and second thing is the data don't match because it's all done manually. So that is one part which is a duplicate. Second thing is the health information updation is manual, and that's the reason why it is inconsistent. So when the child is immunized, child can be immunized in a PHC, it can be in sub-center, it can be in a tertiary hospital, it can be at the Anganwadi. And depending on who is the staff nurse or the ANM will update their systems or registers. And Anganwadi worker tries to look at the immunization card and copy it in the registers. Because the process of recording is manual, the data is never correct. And third one is that the children or the women, when they cross the boundaries of departments, when they, for example, referral happens, that in Anganwadi it is detected that the child is malnourished, and then the child goes to primary healthcare center with his parents. There is no backtracking because the child IDs don't match. There is no way of actually identifying the same child in the same way across two departments. How will you even think of managing the complete cycle of malnutrition for that child, from detection to the cure? So it's a completely broken process. So and that's why, and it all leads to poor data. And that's why I'm saying, unless somebody understands the process aspect of it, the data cannot be managed. So what did we do? So, and you will be surprised, right now I have not even touched technology, okay, because technology comes later. If you have not solved the foundational issues, data, processes, none of it will fit together. We worked with the government tirelessly, and it was not easy. First of all, we facilitated and brought every stakeholder onto the same table and made them agree to adopt a single ID for all women and all children across departments. So we decided on RCH ID, which is from the Central Department, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. It is given, but Women and Child Development Department agreed to follow the same ID instead of creating another monolith of ID. Okay, so that is one. We made sure that every department understands for which data they are the master and which system should hold the master, and it is only from that system that everywhere else it will be copied, so that there is no duplication and there is a single version of truth. Health access, which is nothing to do with data, but we solved it any which way by talking to different departments. You remember I talked about the woman who had to go 4 kilometers for antenatal test and she would rather not go. We realized that Anganwadi centers are 6 times more in number and they are just about 100 meters to 400 meters away from where most of the people live. So now the ANM, who is the main person who does the antenatal test, will come once a month to the Anganwadi centers and will, where the pregnant women go anyway for the hot meal. That's the Karnataka scheme that goes on, and will do the antenatal test, which is so important for the good health of the woman at the Anganwadi center itself. So that was done. And then finally, a host of processes, including the referral, we made sure that it is all seamlessly unified and every party agrees, whether it is between Anganwadi and primary healthcare center, between primary healthcare center and tertiary hospital, and when the child is released back then to the Anganwadi center, the whole cycle is now unified and transparent. Everybody can check out the status of the child, and it is can be managed in a much better fashion. So this is what was done. And then the data part come, because it is easier said than done that no, we will integrate the systems and these things. So we from scratch collected from all the children from 65,000 approximately Anganwadi centers across the state for about 34 lakh children. We got the data collected, verified, and then we cleaned for about, after dropping the duplicates, about 32 lakh children using manual labor, scripts, machine learning, everything you asked for, we did that, because the name spellings are sometimes in the, because they're translated from the regional language, they appear in various ways. So it was very difficult, but we did it. And then we matched it with the healthcare records, which there they have already have a system. And you know what? Out of these 32 lakh children, only 10 lakh children matched. So the journey continues, because we are still working with both the department system to how to bring the other 12 to 14 lakh children into a complete seamlessly integrated. Now, there's another angle to it, that both the Women and Child Development Department, Health and Family Welfare Department, the way they manage data, that is a declared data, that a pregnant woman comes to a primary healthcare center, tells about herself, and she's registered, etc., etc. But it is not a verified data. So verifiability of identification of address, because you have to give, there's so many schemes for their benefit. It goes awry if you do have not verified, they don't have the right data. And women all the time are missing out on taking advantage of very good central and state government scheme. So we are now adding the verifiability with the e-gov department by adding with for every child and woman a ration card. We thought about Aadhaar, but Aadhaar has many constraints because of the Aadhaar Act. So we thought that the next best thing, and the it is being adopted as a family ID also in the state of Karnataka. We are linking all that. It's an ongoing process. As we do it today, almost 15 to 20 lakh children we have already linked with ration card. So it's an activity that is ongoing right now. So this is how we dealt with multi-sectoral data, and you can see that no, achieving quality is not easy. Each one of these steps was very difficult. We are not a very large organization with hundreds of people. A small handful of team actually managed, along with the support of, and humongous support from the government, I must say, in terms with their officials. We have tried to do that. And that is how Sneha took shape. Okay, it's not an app, it's a mini solution. There's a process, integrated process behind it. There's a data integrity behind it. It's an inclusive solution for field workers, where field worker can see a lot of data, can even log complaints, can see insights and analytics about her own Anganwadi center or her own sector or wherever. And of course, there is a very good app which will be easy to use. And it also interfaces with other solutions which are part of Sneha. The Sneha NRC, which is a hospital solution, which is for nutrition rehabilitation center, is already working in Karnataka for 30 district hospitals and about 45 taluka hospitals. There are 14 health surveys which happen for Ashas and ANMs. We have integrated them into a very user-friendly app, and that will get launched the moment COVID lockdowns get over. It's just waiting to be launched. So that is what Sneha is all about. And you can see that the process and data integrity is at the core of it. Yeah. So this is how the first part of our today's journey we cover. But the question comes, is this enough? Because what we have done is laid the foundation. Okay. But how do you sustain the data quality on an ongoing basis? Okay. Now, if you look at there are two aspects. One is that the process rigor has to be established and the accuracy of data has to be ensured. If you look at the malnutrition management cycle, and I've just taken the core process, okay, here in a very easy to understand way. At the Anganwadi centers, the basic services for the child and women is provided. Measurements typically on a monthly or for height, it's every 3 months. It is taken by the Anganwadi worker. Then she interprets it whether the child is falls under the stunting or wasting or underweight, and whether it's a severe or a moderate case based on manual charts as of now. But of course, there are various apps which are there which can be used now. And based on that, then the child is referred. The parents are told that no, take this child to primary or tertiary care because the situation is very severe. And when the child is never cured, by the way, in the tertiary care. He is only brought to a level where the malnutrition becomes less severe, and he is released back into the community where the child has to be taken care back and nursed back into that. And that's how the cycle moves. Now, there are several points of failure which are already happening. First of all, measurements are not taken consistently and in a timely fashion. Measurements are not taken accurately. Interpretations are often wrong because of manual. You can actually put the dot in the wrong place, and red will become yellow, yellow will become green. And earlier I had pointed out how instead of 11%, only 0.6% show in terms of severe underweight. So this is one of the wrong interpretation issues, whether intentionally or just because of the workload. And second is the missed out referral in severe cases. Even if the child is considered as a severe acute malnourished, the referral does not happen timely. Now, we have solved the basic solution, the interpretation issue. Any app will do that. The moment you take weight and enter it, it will automatically, you don't need to draw it on a chart now. It will just say that, yes, it's a severe case or a moderate case or whatever it is. And referral also, we have tied up the processes that with a single click of a button, the referral information will go to the primary or the tertiary healthcare center. And you can trace the child's health record, etc., seamlessly. Okay. So you don't need to fill out forms. All that stuff is not required anymore because the ID is fixed, the records are available, etc. But we still need to tackle two things, which is how to ensure that measurements are taken in a timely fashion and they are taken in an accurate fashion. And that is the role of evidence and accuracy. We decided that we have to add evidence and accuracy to our malnutrition management solution. Evidence that a process step, which is specifically in terms of detection of malnutrition, has taken place. Second, accuracy is that the event which has taken place, suppose somebody has measured the height or the weight, it has been done in a way that at least the human induced error is avoided. Okay, and so there is an accuracy aspect. And we decided that this is best handled by image-based anthropometric measurements, which involves, of course, as you can guess, AI, computer vision, machine learning, all those stuff it will require. So what are the design principles? Now, this is where it becomes complex. And again, it is a matter of human engineering. We are not sitting in academic lab in MIT or Google Labs or something where we can do the best in class algorithm. Believe me, that is equally difficult. I'm not trivializing it. But here we have to give this solution in the hands of the Anganwadi worker. And she has to take the photograph of the child on these many children. 3.2 million children are not going to go to a hospital for monthly measurements. They have to be tackled. The measurement has to be tackled in the Anganwadi center itself. So that is the first, that non-ideal environment, which is like poor lighting, noisy background, all that stuff will happen. Second is that Anganwadi workers are not digitally very well aware. So how do we make sure every time you give a camera in their hand, sometimes they take photograph with a skew, sometimes it is an angle, sometimes in a way that it's very difficult to interpret by the algorithm. And not only that, there were demands by the users. When we spent time with them, because that's the whole advantage of working with the end users, they said, look, my Anganwadi has 40 children. Even if I have to take 40 photographs, okay, every month, it is still an overhead for me. So you're not decreasing my overhead. Can I take photos in group? So we said, fair enough. So within our solution involved taking down 3 to 5 children, you put them together in a against a wall, and then the edge detection will ensure that each child is identified separately, and the measurement for each child is automatically taken. And amongst the on the right side, you can see what all kinds of problems, and these are only few of the environmental issues. Complex geometry, because complex geometry is, you can see that a girl standing in the lower left thing, where the ML is failing to even detect where the floor ends and where the wall starts. So it doesn't know the lowest point. So those kind of challenges the machine learning algorithm and the model has to tackle. And last but not the least, that every user wanted to make sure that this process will not use for surveillance, that whether you have taken, whether you've not, it is for making the whole process efficient and effective. So we made sure that we got the comfort from them by working with them, and that those became our design principles. And then we are currently working on two uh, 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 particular things. One is the height problem, because height is important, because stunting gets detected through height, which is a big issue in India. And by taking a lot of reference photographs, hundreds of photographs our team took, and then we fed into and we created a model based on all the design principles which we have just discussed. And once the fresh child's photograph is taken, it is fed into the model, a height is detected, and the stunting alert comes. Now, for the standing children, we have found we have got very good precision and accuracy. Okay. Now, the baby length is a different thing, because when the child is small and not able to stand, and you remember I told you that stunting, if it is not detected before 2 years and something done about it, can become chronic and irreversible. So that's very important. So we are trying to crack that. Now that is wholly a different level of complexity, because the child is never lying straight. He's twisted in all 3 dimensions, at the hip, at the ankle, at the neck, and moving at that. So it's very difficult to take a photograph and algorithmically straighten him out. We tried all that. So I think this is a work in progress. We are halfway there, okay, and we will do something about it. Maybe it will not be an ideal solution, but I think something which will give a good alert in terms of that, yes, there is a stunting issue with respect to this child. So that is our solution for stunting. We are also trying to do weight issue, and weight we are tackling through BMI, because directly weight is detection is a little bit very challenging. It's not been done also across the world. So again, we took hundreds of children. We took various photographs, and we had the reference weight taken. And when the photograph is taken, especially the facial profile, we are trying now to get the BMI from that. And because we know height to a greater accuracy, if we know the BMI and if you know the height, then you know the approximate weight. Now BMI for children is very difficult. So we are not getting very high precision, but we are getting enough to be able to get a alert which says, yes, there is a risk of wasting for this child. So that means the child needs attention. So we will see how good a precision we can get onto it. We are in early stages of this particular program, but I think so far good progress. But we have to go some distance as far as in terms of getting a very high precision and accuracy. So we are looking at various alternatives, and the team is completely on the job onto that. So this is the in terms of weight through photos. Now I've already reached. I'm conscious of the time also, that. All these things which we talked about, I talked about the basic data, how to achieve the quality, I talked about the AI and ML techniques, but I think we cannot ignore the privacy and intrusion just because of completeness. This has to be uppermost on our mind. And when I say privacy and intrusion, it's across the full cycle in terms of how the data was collected, how it was processed, how it was disseminated, etc., etc. And we have to understand why it makes a bigger impact in malnutrition management cases, because malnutrition management services are inclusive by nature. A pregnant woman can't walk into a sub center, and just because she doesn't have an Aadhaar or a ration card, you can't decline the service. You still have to take a cognizance of a situation and provide all the services that you can do. Or if a hungry child comes to an Anganwadi, will you turn him back? No, not really. So they are inclusive, and coercion of data for collection of data should never be done. But then the backend processes have to be strong enough to be able to add the verifiability as we move along in terms of managing that child or a woman. So I think that's the way it has to be managed, not in terms of you have not brought an Aadhaar card, sorry, can't deal with you today. It will not happen any day like that. And only the necessary personal data has to be collected, and sensitive information, and we have been very conscious of that, because we are working on AI and ML, that pictures all have to be access protected only with very limited set of people, and once it is used for creating a model and not used further, then it has to be destroyed. We are not right now, we are still in the development phase, but as a design principle, we are not planning to store children images after the height is detected. So that is on the privacy and intrusion part of it. And this is my last slide. There's this on the left side, I have put what is the Sneha all about. So at the bottommost, the foundational, there is a data and process integration between multiple departments. And then we have Sneha modules. There are many. I've just shown you the most important ones. Sneha for Anganwadi and Sneha for hospitals. Hospital is already rolled out. Anganwadi, all 65,000 Anganwadi workers in Karnataka state have been trained, and they will actually, it is a rollout ready. Anytime the government gives a go ahead after COVID, it will be rolled out. And AI tools, which I just talked about. And on the right side are all the 4 tenets, and there are many, if you depends on which framework you want to use, data, all the tenets of data quality in terms of completeness, validity, accuracy, and unique, because names are spelled differently, etc., etc. All we have factored into how we have dealt with this quite complex solution, really speaking. That, in summary, friends, was what I wanted to cover today.
Thank you so much, Ashish. This was a wonderful presentation, and this was very informative and interesting to learn about Sneha app and how it uses a multi-sectoral approach for malnutrition management. And now I would like to request Dr. Rao to share his views.
Yeah, Dr. Ashish, I really compliment you for your excellent presentation. And the topic is very pertinent because the global burden of malnutrition is unacceptably high. Nearly half of all the deaths is under 5 children are linked to this malnutrition. Actually, these anthropometry and growth charts are not new. They have the 200 years of history. So over a period of time, when actually the growth standards, when we are started comparing growth standards, for example, 1960s, we used to use Harvard standards. And subsequently 70s, we are using National Center for NCH standards and now WHO growth standards. So the standards also got evolved. So there was some problems, some mistakes, the generation of the creation of the standard that have been actually rectified over a period of time. And also the instruments to be measured to anthropometry also got refined over a period of time. So therefore, keeping in view the actually already existing very robust nutrition surveys using anthropometry data and using growth standards, say WHO growth standards, and yours is an excellent idea. And I think it is, if I rightly understood, it is through image you want to assess the nutrition status. Am I right, Dr. Ashish? Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes,
before you come to conclusion, did you check the sensitivity specificity aspect of the procedure? Or even I am also a computer savvy man. I also I know artificial intelligence and all. But as far as this nutrition status is concerned, did you check using your method and using, suppose I say that gold standard is physically measuring with a right person physically measuring and using either WHO gold standards to assess their nutrition status, and with your mission, how much they are matching, or what is the sensitivity specificity aspect of it. Otherwise, what happens? Either your method overestimates, one problem arises. If it underestimates, another problem arises. So therefore, before you this is excellent procedure and very easy, and once it is standardized, this is the best one should have. But before that, you have to have the sensitivity specificity done using some gold standard, and say that this is your acceptable, say sensitivity is this much, specificity this much. With this kind of error, if it is acceptable, then you can launch this, or you can use it in a bigger way. So this is these are some of my comments, because why I'm telling this is already well set anthropometric measurements, anthropometric measures to assess the nutrition status are available. Unlike say 30-40 years back, now the methodologies have got changed, and the instruments have got changed, the accuracy has increased. Therefore, if at all you are a trained good investigator, it definitely will take almost 99% accurate anthropometric measurements. In turn, they can easily assess the nutrition status. That is the scenario now. So taking into consideration that and your method, which way your method is going to help this country? Over to Ashish. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, Dr. Rao, there is, first of all, you're absolutely right. Okay, anthropometric measurements have been beaten to death, and WHO has evolved. The last, I think, in around 2014-15, the last standard was rolled out, and all the charts had to be changed that time because all the 3 sigma figures, all those things changed. But see, there's one crucial difference there, that anthropometric measurements in hospitals have always been taken with a little bit of rigor and accuracy. Okay, the problem is what we are facing is that sometimes that measurement is either happens because of a random survey which happens at a time, or only when there's already something wrong with the child and he has to be admitted into an NRC or something like that. What happens as a preventive measure in at the point of service like Anganwadi center? That is the gap, and that has to happen for every child. Okay. Now, if you take as NFHS survey, which was done in a very technically robust way, when they took height and weight, etc., covered only 23,000 children across Karnataka. We are talking about 3.5 million children who have to be measured every month. Okay. And the difference is from between 0.6% of them getting detected as severely acute malnourished to 11.11.5, which is the actual number, roughly around that. Okay. Now, that's why we wanted to give, first of all, we looked at the sensitivity, and we looked at that what we can do best, which is in the hands of the daily process, which is done at the Anganwadi center or at the sub-center. Okay. And we wanted to give it with reasonable accuracy. This will never substitute the sensitivity that a WHO or a trained specialist or a healthcare specialist or a doctor will undertake. It will never substitute for that. But will it be good enough to throw an alert on a daily basis so that child does not miss out the next level of diagnosis in a hospital? Because if he's severe. So for example, in our height, we are getting 0.5% of accuracy and roughly the similar precision we are getting. So it's very decent. It does not change the severe to moderate and moderate to natural in a big way. Yes, there is a chance. Okay, there is a chance. But then again, we are with that, it's a Hobson's choice. Whether you want to solve 99% of the problem or you want to make it scientifically accurate. This is a social solution and not a scientific solution, which will be very good. Ideally speaking, anthropometric measurement should be done with minimum of 2 cameras, if not 3, if it is the image based. And we are saying we will not even do that because that doesn't work. 2 cameras in hand of Anganwadi is unthinkable. She's struggling to take a mobile photograph. So it is a step-by-step process, Dr. Rao. My feeling is that we are not far off, but will we meet the gold standards? Maybe yes, in terms of height, but no in terms of weight and child length, because they are very complex taking a mobile camera. So that's where we stand.
Yeah, thank you. And in a lighter way, I can say the big is not always beautiful. So since you have to do 35 lakhs, you should use some, erroneous kind of a thing. But it should be, as you said, stepwise you have to improve and bring it back to a good precision. Then this is a beautiful technique we are at. Thank you very much.
Thank
and Dr.
Rao,
to give you an anecdote, in a remote village we saw in Anganwadi center, they were measuring the height with the measurement, the Taylor's tape, which is the folded tape which is there. And they were, instead of centimeters, they were taking it in inches, wherever centimeter. So this mobile is definitely better than that, whether it's better than gold standard or WHO or not.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashish and Dr. Rao. So I'll just read out a few questions since there's still lack of time. So and request Ashish to respond to that. So do you think geographical mapping of malnourished child can help? It will be easier to locate the population where there is a need for intervention. And another question was, does Sneha app duplicate the ICDS CAS? Ashish,
Yeah,
over to you.
yeah. Both I will answer. First, the geographical information system, the location data, that definitely will help. What we are planning to do as a next step is that, provided Sneha gets adopted, and is that if we get a good geographical or location specific information of how the spread is, we can use, because it is nothing less than big data. We can, at the individual level, at the regional level, at the community level, because we know where the migrant population and the, in the north of Karnataka, there are issues. We can do a lot of analysis in terms of what are the causal factors impacting that cluster of malnutrition. So it is definitely helpful, but for that, first the data has to accumulate in a accurate and legitimate way, which is not yet there. We are a step away. So once that happens, I think that's a good idea. Second question about CAS, Soumya, I will just take up that. I think it is important to understand that CAS is a very good solution, and that is being promoted by the central government. Okay, we are not competing with CAS. We have always maintained, and government of Karnataka has maintained, that we will integrate fully with CAS. But the philosophy from where we are not an Anganwadi app. Okay, CAS is also has two parts. One is the central dashboards, which is meant for officials, and other is a very nice application which is in the hands of Anganwadi worker. But we approach the whole thing in a multi-sectoral way, that it is between health and women, how the process works. Half of the work, our hard work, is not about app. It is about how the same ID has to be followed, how the same this thing, how the process of antenatal checkup should be changed, if you see that. So the philosophy is different. I'm waiting. The dream would be if the CAS and Sneha philosophy get integrated and it gets launched. But Karnataka government, because of the powerful multi-sectoral angle, has requested that can we integrate and in some form roll out Sneha the way it has been conceptualized with the government of Karnataka. That's where it stands right now.
Okay. Just one more question. There are many questions, but I think we can just go with one more question. So what were the problems with Aadhaar linkage? Did you face problems with Aadhaar linkages? That's a question from one.
Some of them, no, actually we did not face a problem with Aadhaar linkage, but there is definitely a lot of concern both in the minds of officials as well as in the eyes of individuals in terms of sharing Aadhaar freely. So we decided to just play safe there, and the officials concurred with us that if there is a better way. Now, increasingly, when we started this journey, there were not good ways. Now there's a QR code. You can have a hash code through which you can take and then match the child's Aadhaar ID. There are a lot of better solutions which have come now. So in retrospect, maybe Aadhaar in some form, not directly the taking that 12-digit number, but in some way would have been a good idea. But ration card, which has a very high coverage, especially in the BPL families across Karnataka, and which is being adopted as a family ID, is, if not as good, is equally good, because that's a very rich database. So we decided that we will integrate and verify using ration card database and rather than Aadhaar. So that is how it is.
Thank you, Ashish. We actually have many more questions, but I don't, due to lack of time, we won't be able to take all the questions now, but we'll definitely get back. We'll get the responses from Ashish later and put it up on our IndiQF website. I would like to thank Mr. Ashish and Dr. Rao for a great discussion. We want this to continue further. I don't think 45 minutes would do any justice to this. I would like to thank Radhika also for the IT support that she's given. I'd like to thank the participants for joining us, and please look out for more invites from IndiQF for upcoming webinars. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Soumya. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.